For the first time in 2024, the glass breaks and we talk Vols with stone cold Austin Price of VolQuest on 3 right here on RKW. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling with you at Austin Priceless, where you can find him on Twitter. Austin, Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Just watching Brent Hubbs. I mean, he looks like James Pierce on that pick six the way he's driving up through Atlanta right now.
Is he holding the steering wheel with one hand the way James Pierce is holding the football with one hand as well, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, he's got his hands at 8 and 4 instead of 10 and 2. I mean, that's a little bit worrisome, but I mean, he's weaving in and out of traffic. I mean, it looks like Bo and Luke Duke trying to win the Richmond 500 on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh my God! Hey, tell him unless he's got a 40 in a brown paper bag, he don't need to be driving like that, man. He don't need to be driving.
Unless you have a 40 in a brown paper bag, you don't need to be driving like that. Who says he doesn't?
Hey, I'm just glad y'all can make it through Atlanta traffic. That's all, man. Congratulations.
Goodness. Yeah. Crazy. Austin, what did you like the most about yesterday's win for Tennessee?
I mean, Tennessee did what they were supposed to do. Defensively, they didn't allow a point. A timely interception by, Andre Turrentine, James Pierce, obviously with a strip sack, and then a pick six. Offensively, they were able to run the football 232 yards. Nico was efficient in the passing game. And, they just did what they were supposed to, 35-0. Really nice performance as Coach Heupel's been saying all bowl season, to kick off the 2024 campaign.
And, Austin, I really like specifically just the way Nico was able to, off-script, make something happen. And even on his, I believe it was the last rushing touchdown, that's a designed play-action pass where he decides, I'm going to tuck this and run and finds the end zone. Do you see Tennessee using his legs in a different way next season and more of a way they kind of used Hendon Hooker's athleticism a year ago?
Yeah, I think it'll be similar. He's crafty. I think, the play you referenced, once Jacob kind of wasn't there and he decided to tuck and run, he accelerated. I think you'll see more Patrick Mahomes from him going forward from a standpoint of, like, he'll accelerate and then still make the pass. And, I think that he's going to be really tough to defend, with his ability to ad-lib and go off script when things break down. And that's the one thing that, Joe probably did struggle with, was his ability to, kind of freelance when the pressure got there and be able to ad-lib a play. I think Nico does a really good job of that. And the biggest thing is Nico keeps his eyes down the field. He's really good at, not just, once he goes to run, just putting his head down and running. Like, he keeps his eyes up the field when he starts running, and if something, breaks open, I think you'll see him make a play with his arm still, as long as he's behind the line of scrimmage.
Was there anything that we didn't see talent-wise from Nico yesterday? Because, again, to open up the game on the left hash and throw to the right sideline is one of the hardest throws for any quarterback. So I think that takes the lid off of a lot of what we expect from him as far as arm strength. Was there something that he has that we didn't see yesterday?
Yeah, I think the ability to hit the deep ball, and I think that's not on him, right? Like, that's the one thing you really didn't see yesterday. He I thought, had a great throw to Ramon Kayla, and had Ramon Kayla ran through the route, he probably scores. Instead, he slowed up, and the ball ended up landing about 4 or 5 yards past him. That's probably the only thing. But again, I think that will get better with time. I think Tennessee's receiving core should be a deeper, more experienced, more talented group in 2024. And you look at the additions of Chris Brazzell, and we're still waiting on Brew, McCoy to make a decision. But again, things continue to trend well there. And then the addition of Braylon Staley and Mike Matthews. I think Tennessee's receiver core is going to be more athletic next season, which I think helps Nico because they're able to get more separation, which means he doesn't have to be as perfect next year with the football.
The development of your bigs is always huge when you're trying to build a program like Tennessee is. We saw a guy yesterday, I think, probably had one of the best breakout games. And if we can just look forward to next year, Tyree West, 4 total tackles, a sack and a half, man, and was just violent. I don't think we've seen much for him in his first couple of years at Tennessee. Was that his breakout party yesterday?
Well, he claimed it was. He said it was his coming out party yesterday in the media scrum afterwards. And, he needed to step up. With Tyler Barron, off to Ole Miss, like this was a chance for Tyree West to step into that role and shine. He did that. Jason Jenkins got 13 snaps yesterday as a bigger, edge defensive end type player. And this is a young man who, was highly thought of coming out of the recruiting process and, has slowly come on and done a really nice job. And, I think to get some momentum for him confidence-wise heading into 2024 was big yesterday for Tyree West.
Austin Price joining us this morning of VolQuest here on RK Dub. And Austin, do we call him the double S's? Obviously, we talked a lot about Dylan Sampson coming into this game and him being the guy, and you had some help from Cameron Seldon as well. What did you like about this combo averaging, 5.8 yards per carry in this game?
Well, the old S&S cafeteria. That's what we're going to call them.
Yes.
Always open.
At the cafeteria, you always eat.
Like that.
Sampson and Seldon did a really good job yesterday. And, for someone who hasn't played a whole lot, I thought Cam Seldon looked fantastic. I mean, and Jerry Mack's done a really good job. He had, 3 really capable running backs all year long. And so to even have Seldon in a position as the number 4 to step in and do what he did yesterday was really, really impressive. I think he's only going to get better as he learns to run a little bit lower with his pads. And then when you add in like Dylan Sampson, Eric Kane said this yesterday on our podcast. Like Dylan Sampson had one of the quietest 130-yard games you'll ever see. Just really solid, and continues to get better. I mean, and will continue to get even more better headed into 2024. But just I think that room is super solid. And I think Jerry Mack has done one of the best jobs of any coach on the offensive side for sure, but maybe even the whole team.
Austin, I know Deacon Hill was not great. 7 of 18, 56 yards passing, 2 INTs. How much could you see out of the secondary, this new look secondary of Tennessee in this game? I know Deacon Hill is maybe not the greatest example of a quarterback to go up against, but what could you tell from their talent?
Well, I think, you couldn't tell a whole lot. What I saw was a group that did what they were supposed to do. Ricky Gibson was really solid yesterday. Gabe Giulali in his final game played well. I continue to think Jordan Thomas, the more experience he gets, the better he plays. And so if they can keep him on the field, he's a young man that will be a key part of that secondary next year. And then, I still want to see Tennessee, sub more in these games. I said this on our podcast yesterday. I don't think they do a good enough job of when the game is out of hand, get Jalen McCullough and Gabe Giulali out there when you're up 28-0 in the fourth quarter. To me, those guys should have been out of the game at that point. This should have been a lot more run for Christian Conyer, for Jordan Matthews, for John Slaughter. Instead, Conyer didn't play. Matthews played 4 snaps, and John Slaughter played 4 snaps. You have to be better because you got to continue to build depth. That's the one thing that Ryan Jean-Marie, Jerry Mack, Rodney Garner all do really, really well is they get those young guys in. And when you played 9 snaps in one game, 8 snaps the next, 12 snaps the next, by the end of the year, you've played a substantial amount more than the others. You're better for it. And I think that's something that the back end of the defensive staff has to do a better job in 2024.
Austin Price of VolQuest with us. Austin, with Tennessee looking this confident at quarterback and improving under Nico Iamaleava yesterday, it's interesting what the expectations are going to be for 2024. And for a while, we've said, win the SEC East and go from there, right? Well, there's no more SEC East. And as you look at this team and this roster moving forward next season, Austin, what is, you feel like, the expectation within that building of how good they feel like they can be next year?
Well, I think the expectation is to be in the college football playoff next year, and I think that should be the expectation. This is a team that's got a lot of the offensive line coming back. You like your running backs. I think, it's not yet proven in the offense, but I think you feel really good about the receivers with Chris Brazzell and some of the young guys coming in, potentially Brew coming back. I think they like the tight ends. Again, Holden Staes is going to have to learn to play with tempo. I mean, at Notre Dame, they played, 1 snap every 5 minutes, and here it's going to be 1 snap every 4 seconds. So it's going to be a little different for him, but that's why he's got spring practice to improve. And then defensively, you have a lot of key playmakers back across the board, led by James Pierce, who is, one of the nastiest defensive, playmakers in college football. So, I think this is a team that, can they get to Atlanta? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there are probably a few other teams that have a little easier path as far as schedule than Tennessee does. But with number 8 at quarterback, if he plays within himself and continues to do what Nico seems to do, which is just kind of be there in the moment and deliver, anything is possible.
Austin, much has been made about Evan Stewart's connections to Tennessee, the former Texas A&M wide receiver in the transfer portal. You mentioned Brew McCoy and his status still up in the air, returning to this roster next season. What's the latest on Tennessee's pursuit of an outside wide receiver, and when do you think we could get news on Brew McCoy's potential return?
I think, the Evan Stewart train, I think that one's probably not going to leave the station. Like, I think Tennessee, kicked the tires a little bit there, and I just don't see that, doing any more than that. As for Brew McCoy, I think Brew will announce something, in the not so distant future, and I think the rubber will meet the road for him, fairly quickly here.
When it boils down to the new additions coming in this 2023 class, or it's 24 right now, 2024 class at practice, anybody impressive? I saw Boo Carter's name go across. I feel like anytime there's anything Vols related, you're going to hear Boo Carter's name with this freshman class. Yeah,
Boo Carter, he certainly brings the juice and carries himself in a way that, he has a swagger. And, he, Braylon Staley, Mike Matthews, all kind of, early enrollees that, turned some heads in bowl practice. Now, I'll caution you, like a year ago, John Slaughter was somebody who turned heads in bowl practice and then didn't play a whole lot this year. So, we'll see. But, at the same time, I think it's, if you're a young guy, that's what you want to do. You want to make a few plays, make your presence known early, and then get to spring practice and see what happens when the real pads go on. You spent those players spent most of their time in bowl practice running scout team. That will not be the case when we get to March and spring practice starts. It'll be go time for all those guys.
When you also look at the end of the bowl season for the Vols, I think you guys have also been mentioning the transfer portal is still open till Friday. What has to happen as far as Coach Heupel keeping the staff, or do you expect maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 guys entering into the portal?
Well, yeah, they have 5 days, or basically to Friday, to enter the portal, or any team that played yesterday. For Michigan and TCU, their window won't start till after next Monday's national championship game. I think you have to be cognizant that there could be 1 or 2 of these guys that have transferred before. They could potentially transfer again, and that goes back to that new rule that's in place. For this window is, if you transferred once, you can transfer again. Which again, I've said with you all for the last 3 or 4 weeks, that's a bad move for college football. It's not healthy for the sport, and it just opens up a whole can of worms for, I just think the game gets lessened. I think you lose coaches, potentially to the NFL going this route. I think you have to think about the overall health of the sport. But, anybody that's moving forward, so you look at Gerald Mincy, that's one that, could potentially, look around. You look at Dante Thornton, Andre Keurig, all those players that have transferred before are eligible to potentially look around. Whereas 3 weeks ago, they were locked in. They couldn't look around again unless they graduated. None of them had. So I think when you look at the next 3 or 4 days, those will be pivotal if you're trying to hold on to any of these players.
Austin Price joining us on RK-Dub. Austin, this might be a long shot question here, but I am curious, when you have a performance by a young quarterback like Nico Iamaleava, what does that maybe do for some of these guys who are still making decisions because you're able to see that on full display in a bowl game and you're seeing what the future might be?
Well, I think, it definitely energizes his teammates. It energizes, the newcomers. It energizes the recruits that are committed to Tennessee or looking at Tennessee to know you've got somebody for the next couple of years that, is going to be, holding down that really important position on the football team. And it's a quarterback-driven game. And, I think that anytime you have somebody, like Nico, definitely gives Tennessee a little bit of juice out there, whether it be in holding on to their own players or, in the recruiting world, whether it be transfers or the high school ranks.
Austin, Dominic McKinley turning heads at Under Armour All-American practice over the weekend. I know VolQuest's Matt Ray was there to talk with him and cover all of those things right down the road in the Sunshine State. What's the latest on his recruitment with Tennessee?
Well, he committed to LSU on at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve/New Year's Day, and we'll see if he takes a visit. It was set to come here on January 20th. I could still see him taking that visit, but I think just kind of grown tiresome of the process, and I think he got around all those players at the Under Armour game and looked around and goes, man, all these guys already signed? I'm like the only person that isn't signed, and I think that was kind of like a little bit of an eye-opener for him, and LSU is just down the road. I mean, it's not shocking that a kid from an hour outside of Baton Rouge is going to go to LSU, right, especially someone who's highly coveted like Dominic McKinley. But we'll see. Tennessee will keep swinging there. We'll see if they can get him to campus here in the month of January. If they do, then maybe they got a puncher's shot. If they don't, then it will be over.
What was the stadium that bad, or was Will overhyping it, Austin? Because Will said it's probably top 10 terrible stadiums in Orlando. Top two. Was it that bad, Austin?
Well, I tell you what, when Brent Hubbs comes on Friday, ask him that question. I think the quote as we left the stadium last night was, the next time I come back will be too soon, or something like that. So Will's assessment of top 2 worst stadiums he's been to, it might be up there. I mean, it was what it was. I mean, there was a game between white lines I watched. I mean, it was weirdly, oddly configured for media. It was strange in a lot of ways, but
It was worse than the construction site down the road. That's for sure, Austin. Austin Price of VolQuest joining us every Tuesday here at RKW. Austin, thank you as always.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
All right, there's Austin Price. I'm telling you, it was terrible.
It was that bad.
It was terrible.